I was standing in the dim hallway outside the cardiac ward when I heard the code blue alarm. The kind of sound that rips through the air and sends every nurse and doctor moving like they've been set on fire. They wheeled him past me in seconds, a man in his late 60s, eyes closed, skin pale, chest heaving under the push of compressions. His wife was behind, frozen, clutching her handbag like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I knew him. I'd been his heart doctor for years. And here's the part that still makes my stomach tighten. This was preventable. Not because he ignored medication. Not because he smoked or drank too much. Not even because he skipped exercise. No, this man made one small, quiet habit before bed every night. A habit so common, so harmless seeming, that almost no one questions it. But it had been silently setting him up for disaster. By the time you finish this video, you'll understand exactly how that habit choked off his blood flow, created the perfect trap for a clot to form, and how to stop it from happening to you. Let me be clear, blood clots don't just happen overnight. They're like a thief who watches your home for weeks before breaking in. You give them the opportunity, and they'll take it. But if you close that opportunity, even with one change, you can cut your risk dramatically. Here's the problem. Most men don't think about blood clots until they hear about a stroke, a pulmonary embolism, or deep vein thrombosis. And by then, it's too late. The clot has already moved. What they don't realize is that the hours before bed are prime time for clot formation, not because your body is weak, but because of how you treat it in those last waking moments. Think of your blood like a river. When it's flowing strong and smooth, it's hard for anything to build up in it. But slow it down, throw in a few fallen branches, a little debris, and suddenly, things start sticking. Before long, you've got a dam. In your body, that dam is a clot. And one wrong move can send it rushing downstream, blocking the very pathways that keep you alive. Now, here's where most seniors slip up. You end your evening in complete stillness, sinking into that recliner for hours, legs bent, maybe nodding off before you even make it to bed. Your muscles aren't pumping blood the way they should. Gravity pulls it down into your legs. The flow slows. Platelets, the tiny clot makers, start bumping into each other, thinking this must be an injury. Time to patch it up. Except there is no injury. Just you, unknowingly creating the perfect workshop for a clot. And it's not just sitting. Sometimes it's what you eat or drink before bed. Heavy meals, late-night alcohol, or even certain sleep aids can alter your blood's viscosity, making it thicker and stickier. Combine that with hours of lying still, and you're rolling the dice every single night. I remember the first time I explained this to a patient. He looked at me like I just told him the earth was flat. "Doc, I've been doing this my whole life," he said. And that's the danger. We mistake habit for harmlessness. Just because you've done something for decades without obvious consequences doesn't mean your body hasn't been paying the price in silence. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Clots are often silent until they're lethal. You don't get a polite warning. You don't get a day or two to react. One moment, you're fine. The next, you're clutching your chest, gasping for air, or unable to move one side of your body. That's how cruel this is. The man in the hallway, the one who collapsed, had been falling asleep in his chair after watching TV every night. Feet flat on the floor, knees bent, barely moving for hours. His blood pooled. A clot formed in his leg, traveled up, and lodged in his lung. That's called a pulmonary embolism. And it's one of the fastest ways life can end without giving you a chance to say goodbye. Now here's the part you need to hear. Stopping this isn't about never sitting down or never relaxing. It's about creating a small but powerful interruption in the pattern. You stand up. You move. You stretch your calves. You drink a small glass of water before you actually get into bed. These micro-actions keep the river moving just enough to prevent the dam from forming. And if you've been told just take a blood thinner and you'll be fine, I'm telling you, that's not enough. Medication helps, but it's not a magic shield. Blood thinners can't undo hours of stagnation. They can't make up for the way your circulation slows when you stop moving completely. They also don't protect you from the other bedtime mistakes we'll talk about in a moment, things that make your blood thicker and your vessels more vulnerable. Here's what I want you to picture tonight. As you're winding down, imagine your blood vessels like roads at night. When you're moving around, it's like rush hour traffic, fast, constant, nothing settling. But when you sit still for hours, those roads turn into back alley streets. A little debris here, a pothole there, and suddenly one wrong twist in the road stops everything behind it. That's your clot. And the detour isn't an inconvenience, it's a stroke, a heart attack, or a lung blockage. This isn't fear-mongering. It's reality. I've watched it play out too many times not to tell you straight. The danger builds quietly, and when it finally shows itself, you don't get the luxury of bargaining with it. That's why what you do before bed matters more than most men realize. In a minute, I'm going to break down the 3 most dangerous before-bed habits that directly feed into clot formation, and I'll show you how to replace them with habits that work against clotting instead of for it. But first, I need you to see one more thing, the psychological trap that keeps men doing this even after they've been warned. Here's the trap, and it's one I've seen play out with the toughest, most disciplined men I know. It's not laziness. It's not ignorance. It's identity. Most men past 60 carry a quiet pride in how they handle discomfort. You've been through years of hard work, injuries, maybe even combat with your own health, and you've trained yourself to tough it out. That stubbornness serves you in the fight. But here's the ugly flip side. It makes you dismiss risks that feel invisible. You can see a broken leg. You can feel a knife wound. But a clot? It gives you nothing until it hits. So you brush it off. You tell yourself, I've been fine for years. I'm not about to change my routine now. And that's exactly how the danger survives. It hides in your comfort zone, disguised as something you've always done. It's why men sit in that recliner after dinner for hours, half watching TV, half dozing, letting the blood pool in their legs like an old pond collecting algae. You don't feel the slowdown. You don't feel the clumping of platelets. But it's happening. Let me paint you a picture you won't forget. Imagine 2 rivers side by side. One is a mountain stream, fast, clear, alive. The other is a swamp. The swamp doesn't turn toxic overnight. Day after day, it sits still. Water warms. Algae grows. Mosquitoes breed. Eventually, that swamp can't support life. In your body, the swamp is the hours you spend before bed without moving. The mosquitoes are clots waiting for the right moment to strike. And here's the kicker, it doesn't even take that long. Studies show that sitting completely still for as little as 90 minutes can significantly reduce blood flow in your legs. 90 minutes. That's barely the length of a movie. Combine that with whatever you ate or drank before sitting, and you're giving clots a near-perfect breeding ground. Now, I promised you I'd reveal the 3 most dangerous before-bed habits that fuel clot formation. These are the habits I see again and again in my cardiac patients, the ones that lead to 2 a.m. emergency calls. The first is what I call the gravity trap, sitting with your knees bent for hours before bed. Think about how most evenings go. Dinner. Then you sink into the couch or recliner. Feet flat. Knees at 90 degrees. Blood drains into your calves and ankles, slowed by the bend in your legs. Your calf muscles, the pumps that push blood back up, go offline. This is exactly why long flights are notorious for clots. Except here, you're choosing the long flight every night without the vacation at the end. The second is the blood thickener, late-night heavy meals and alcohol. Your digestive system diverts blood to process that food. Alcohol dehydrates you, removing water from your blood and making it thicker. The combination is brutal. Thick blood plus slow flow equals clot risk skyrockets. Add salty snacks, and you're pulling even more water from your bloodstream, concentrating those platelets like glue. The third is the shutdown signal, going straight from intense activity to complete stillness. Maybe you do some yard work or go for a walk in the evening, then immediately sit down for hours. You feel like you've earned the rest. But here's the problem: your blood vessels are dilated from the activity, your heart rate is slowing, and then you slam the brakes entirely. It's like hitting stop on a treadmill without cooling down. Your circulation drops faster than it should, and pulling begins almost immediately. Now, some men hear this and say, "Fine, I'll just stand up before bed." That's a start, but it's not enough. You need movement that actually pumps blood back toward your heart. That means calf raises, gentle pacing, even just walking to the kitchen for a glass of water. 2 minutes can reset the flow. 2 minutes can keep the river moving. One of my patients, George, laughed when I told him this. "Doc, 2 minutes isn't going to save my life." So we ran a test. He sat for 90 minutes while I measured blood flow in his legs. Then I had him walk the length of my office for 2 minutes. The improvement was immediate, like unclogging a drain. George doesn't laugh about it anymore. He does it every night before bed. And I'll tell you something else. The men who take this seriously aren't the ones who feel invincible. They're the ones who've watched friends collapse, who've been to funerals that came too soon. They know the difference between "I'm fine" and "I'm playing with fire." Right now, you might be thinking, "This is overkill. I'm healthy. I don't feel anything wrong." That's the voice that gets men into trouble. That's the identity talking, the "I've made it this far" mindset. But health isn't a trophy you win once and keep forever. It's a battle you fight every single day. And if you stop fighting before bed, you're giving the enemy an open door. In the next part, I'm going to give you the exact before-bed ritual I've designed for my older male patients, a simple, 5-minute sequence that keeps blood moving, thins clot risk naturally, and works even if you've been sitting all evening. And it doesn't require a single piece of exercise equipment. Picture this: it's 9:45 p.m. You've had dinner, maybe watched your favorite show, maybe just scrolled on your phone. You feel relaxed, heavy, ready for bed. But before you sink into that pillow, you give your body one last act of discipline, the same way a soldier cleans his weapon before turning in. Not because you expect an attack tonight, but because you respect what could happen if you don't. Here's the ritual. 5 minutes. No excuses. First, the wake-up walk. Stand up. Don't just shuffle. Walk to the farthest point in your home and back. It doesn't matter if that's the kitchen, the garage, or the bedroom door. The point is to get your calves and thighs contracting, squeezing blood back up to the heart. 30 to 60 seconds is enough to reawaken your circulation. As you walk, roll your shoulders back and breathe deep. Oxygen helps keep the blood less sticky. Second, the calf pump. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Rise up onto your toes, hold for 2 seconds, then slowly lower your heels. Repeat 20 times. You'll feel your calves working, almost like a gentle burn. That burn is blood moving. It's the opposite of pooling. And you don't need to be an athlete to do this. If you can stand, you can pump. Third, the hip opener. Place your hands on a wall or chair for balance. Lift one knee toward your chest, hold for a second, and lower it. Alternate legs for 10 reps each. This movement opens the hips, shifts blood flow from your lower legs, and prevents that tight, compressed ankle that slows circulation when you sit. Fourth, the hydration hit. Pour yourself a small glass of water, just enough to refresh, not so much that you're waking up all night to use the bathroom. Even 2 or 3 sips reintroduce fluid into your bloodstream, thinning it slightly and reducing clot stickiness. If you've had alcohol or salty food earlier, this step is non-negotiable. Finally, the breathing reset. Sit on the edge of your bed. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do this 3 times. Not because it magically clears your blood, but because it slows your heart rate in a controlled way, not the sudden drop you get from collapsing into bed after hours of stillness. Your body transitions from alert to rest without losing circulation momentum. The whole thing, from the moment you stand up to the last breath, takes under 5 minutes. It's not flashy. No one will clap for you. But here's the truth, no one claps at your funeral either. This is about staying alive long enough to keep writing your own story. Now, some men try to replace this with gadgets, compression socks, recliners with leg lifts, even those foot massage machines you see on late-night commercials. I'm not saying those things don't help. They do. But they're supplements, not substitutes. Nothing replaces muscle contraction for moving blood. The calf is called the second heart for a reason. It's a pump, and if you don't use it, the system fails. I had a patient, Ray, who swore by his expensive recliner. Said it kept his legs elevated and that was good enough. One night, he skipped his walk because, in his words, I was already comfortable. A clot formed in his right leg, and by morning, he was in my ER. He survived, but he's on blood thinners for life now. Comfort is a siren song, and like every sailor who's chased it, you either steer away or get wrecked. If you make this ritual a habit, something strange will happen. You'll start to feel the difference. Nights you skip it, you'll notice your legs feel heavier. Your ankles might swell a little more. You might wake up feeling foggy. That's your body telling you the river slowed. And the more you notice it, the less likely you'll be to skip again. But here's where I'm going to challenge you. Don't just do this for yourself. Men tend to act when it's for someone else. Your wife, your kids, your grandkids, they don't need a memory of you in a hospital bed, tubes in your arms, because of something you could have fixed in 5 minutes. They need you standing in the kitchen, making coffee, telling stories, laughing, alive. Blood clots don't care how strong you are, how smart you are, or how much money you have. They only care about opportunity. And if you give them that opportunity night after night, they will take it. I've seen too many good men give them that chance. So tonight, you've got a choice. Let the river turn into a swamp, or keep it flowing. You already know which one leads to tomorrow.